I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Planning for Duluth-St. Louis River Corridor is about to come to fruition with a host of projects on tap this summer. We will talk with community members about the plan.
A drier than normal winter and unseasonably warm temperatures have all of northwestern Wisconsin on alert for the dangers of wildfire. A DNR forestry official joins us tonight.
And 25 years ago today, Minnesota sold its first lottery tickets to the public.
These stories and the business news coming up next on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. Denny, it's a really beautiful spring day today. I hope you got out and enjoyed it.
Did I get out? I spent most of the day outside on the deck reading. I mean, this was not a day to stay indoors.
You got a little color.
I did get a little sunshine today.
That's good. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, so let's get started.
All right, Julie, thank you so much. Residents of western Duluth will soon see some real progress in the much-discussed St. Louis River Corridor. City officials announced this week several projects that will connect neighborhoods to the river and provide recreational activities for residents and visitors. It's the beginning of what some hope will be a real renaissance in far western Duluth. So, joining us to talk about the plan is Noah Hobbs, president of the citizen-led River Corridor Coalition. And also with us is Bill Majewski. He is the president of the St. Louis River Alliance and the Morgan Park Community Club. Thank you both for being here. And Bill, you're a longtime Morgan Park resident. These projects have got to be exciting, not only for your neighborhood, but for that entire corridor.
Yes, they are. You know, I moved here about 50 years ago, and when I asked for some advice on where to live, they said east of the Point of Rocks, because the river was in such bad shape at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been working on cleaning up the river for the last 20 years, and I think it's finally gotten to the point where people are willing to take a good close look at it.
Mm-hmm. I know you're a relatively new resident of the western part of the city, but what a great time to be there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I bought a home 3 years ago in the Denfeld neighborhood. Was drawn to the small town feel of all the different neighborhoods in the business district. And every home that I see that goes for sale now, and other young couples moving in. So it's certainly, people are very interested in moving out there.
What does the coalition, either one of you or both can answer, what does the coalition hope to see accomplished throughout that river corridor? It's a beautiful piece of land that extends for miles.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, there's not a direct vision that we have. The mission that we have is to generate positive conversation and positive advancement along the river corridor that extends beyond just the 50-50 tax. So certainly with the opportunity to have $50 million invested into the corridor neighborhoods, that's certainly the main focus right now, but in 3 years, what's it going to look like? I don't think this group's just going to go away, so there's a lot more on our plate.
Now, as you look at the St. Louis River Corridor and the neighborhoods in it, what do you think are some of the real strengths or the real assets that any plan that comes together really needs to kind of build off of?
Well, I think we have modest priced homes. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of homes that are in sound shape, and they're ideal for the kind of people that we're seeing move into the neighborhood now, and that's young families starting out, looking for homes that are reasonably priced and that are close to the amenities, the river, the hills, you know, the outdoor areas. Mm-hmm. And so I think those are some of the things that people are attracted to.
Bill, is there also a demand for rental housing in western Duluth, or are more people buying?
Well, I think there's a demand for rental. I know in our neighborhood in Morgan Park, we've been trying to get some market rate housing for a lot of the people that are empty nesters now, and we've had those people looking for that and asking, let's get some built. And to date, we haven't been able to be successful at that.
Now, the City Parks Department had a big meeting earlier this week. Sounds like a lot of residents showed up for that. What are some of the things that you see coming to fruition that maybe have just been talked about for a while, but now look like they're really going to happen?
They're going to extend the Western Waterfront Trail out to Morgan Park and connect the neighborhood, Riverside and Morgan Park.
And we have a map of that. Maybe they could put it up and you could talk a
Sure.
bit about what that trail is going to look like.
Yeah, and so they're going to extend the existing Western Waterfront Trail out to Blackmere Park, Blackmere and Morgan Park. They're going to do eliminate some invasive species. They're going to make it ADA accessible, so anyone now can access it. So it'll be a milder grade for even individuals that are in wheelchairs or are mobility challenged. And then they're going to do hiking loops, Bardens and Ely's Peak. Instead of just walking, 2 miles and then walking 2 miles back, you can now actually walk in a circle and not have to see the same thing twice on your walk, which I think is great in highlighting some of the, most gorgeous views that I've ever seen, and in the fall are second to none.
I've lived in Duluth for many years, and it seems to me there's a newfound energy to develop this corridor area. What's brought on that new energy?
I think it's a cleanup of the river. I think it really is.
It's far different from what it was 20,
yes,
25 years ago.
Yes, it is. Yes. The river used to receive all the mill waste from Cloquet. You came down, U.S. Steel put theirs in there. The city's sanitary sewer was going in there with only primary treatment. And so it was not a very pleasant environment. A lot of the fish were gone, and it smelled. And so all that's gone. When the sanitary district was built, that took all the things that were going into the river into a pipe, and it's being treated now. And so
people are using the river again.
People are using the river, yes.
Is there concern as development plans come together that you have to be very cautious about protecting it now that all of those problems have been eliminated?
That's a very good question. As a part of the St. Louis River Alliance, that's one of the concerns that we have, and that's why we're really active in this program. We've been working on the river, cleaning it up and creating habitat and improving habitat. And so we're wanting to be very vigilant about protecting the things that we've put in place that are going to be needed for the success of the recovery of the river. And so we're sitting in on these discussions, and we're hoping that we can minimize the amount of negative impact that occurs as a result of these projects.
Noah, how can citizens who live in the river corridor get involved?
Oh, I think the city has a lot of access points to get involved. The River Corridor Coalition, certainly we meet the third Wednesday of every month at 6 o'clock at the Iron Mug out in Morgan Park. And we've got multiple different committees. We've got a realtor committee that gives us housing data and identifies how we can beef up the neighborhoods to make them more desirable for families to move in. We've got a marketing committee on how to market the area, and then also a trails and parks committee that has worked on cross-city trail issues and all of those different things. And actually through that, the Western Waterfront was identified as a possible plan for the city's vision and has now been accepted.
Bill, we had you on several months ago, I guess now. It seems
Yes.
like it wasn't that long ago, but the St. Louis River Alliance and Duluth LISC and the University of Minnesota had gotten a Bush Foundation grant to do some creative planning with residents in the neighborhood. What's happening with that?
Well, we had about 40 grad students working on a variety of different projects last December and January. And some of those have moved on now, and this summer we're getting geared up to have some public discussions about that. And one of them that we were talking about just yesterday was to have one in Morgan Park to talk about the 100th anniversary of Morgan Park coming up in mid-July. And that could be a little workshop that when people come to the Lakeview building, that they could participate in a discussion about what should Morgan Park be like? The school is in the process of being sold. What should happen there? We could talk with the developer a little bit about that sort of thing. So
Morgan Park is almost like a little community unto itself, but a lot of neighborhoods in western Duluth are sort of these little communities. That must be a real sense of pride, I would think, for a lot of folks who live in western Duluth.
That's a real unique part about Duluth. You know, if you live in Riverside, you know where Riverside is. If you live in Norton Park is fairly well defined.
Sure.
If you live in Smithville, that's fairly well defined. And Morgan Park, the same, and Fond du Lac and Gary New Duluth, you know, all those river communities are pretty well identified. And in most cases, they're separated by some green space, you know, so that's what makes it work that way.
Have there been any challenges in terms of trying to get all of those neighborhoods that have been looking at themselves and maybe doing some strategic planning in their neighborhoods, now looking at the bigger picture and how they can all work together and form one vision?
Yeah, and that's what the river corridor, kind of the genesis of that was, is how do we work across these very defined neighborhoods that have a strong neighborhood, you know, pride, and that's, you know, a big benefit, but it's also the difficulty is seeing just beyond that green space between that and Morgan
Sure.
Park and Riverside. So that's the River Corridor Coalition's attempting to do that, and I think that we have done that fairly successfully to this point.
Noah, are there plans for the Atlas Cement site on Commonwealth Avenue?
I think they're talking about possibly doing a housing development. I thought I saw something recently about that, and I think to go back to the realtor question, or the rental question, there's a lot of housing development that's happening. They're looking at the Morgan Park school site.
Sure.
They're looking at just past 93rd on Grand Avenue, doing another multi-unit, family unit development out there. So I think the Atlas, I think there's also housing.
I'm not quite sure how the Atlas fits in there, because I know that's an industrial, a light industrial park.
Yeah.
And,
Pretty good piece of acreage, though. Very nice piece of land.
Yeah, I think there's at least 40 acres there, or 80 acres. Yeah.
A lot of the plans that have been discussed have to do with recreation and tourism. What about business? Are there certain kinds of businesses that you're hoping to maybe draw in and grow out in the corridor?
Well, one of the projects is a paddling center. That would be at the Tellis Island site. And there is a lot of interest in that particular one, because you've got the potential of dealing with kayaks and watercraft and other things. That's a small one. We've got the bike trails. I mean, there's I think $2.5 million worth of this budget is going toward extending the trails up along the hillside. So you got bike
Sure.
trails and repair and you know,
Yeah.
other accessories that go along with that. So I don't know that there are any other businesses that I'm aware of that are related to these projects, but there certainly are going to be some that
Sure.
are going to be developing as we go along.
And on that positive note, we're going to have to cut it off. Bill, Noah, thank you very much. Appreciate telling your story here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Now, let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
There you go. Good luck.
Joe Farron waited over 45 minutes to buy the first lottery ticket at this Duluth gas station. He thought it would be lucky. He was wrong.
I didn't get nothing.
What does it say?
5,000, 2, 2, 1, 1.
You got to get 3.
We get 3.
You gotta match.
We didn't win.
Farron's one of the 80% of Minnesotans expected to play the new lottery. He says he'll try again.
Yeah, it helps our state out better than sending the money over to Superior.
An estimated 1 out of 8 people who plays the lottery is expected to win. This Duluth grocery store boasts 6 winners out of 30 ticket buyers so far today. This woman isn't one of the 6.
Try to get her. Better luck next time.
Hundreds of area residents waited to ring in the new lottery at this official kickoff. This one in Duluth is one of 6 official lottery launches throughout the state today. And if all this hoopla winds down in the next 6 to 8 weeks, lottery officials don't mind. They say they have another game up their sleeves which will replace Match 3, and they hope maintain some of the lottery fever for months to come. Colleen Burns, KDLH News.
Many of us are enjoying the warm April temperatures, but not so much for forestry officials who earlier this week issued a red flag warning for wildfires due to the combination of a drier than normal winter and drought-like conditions in northwestern Wisconsin. Until the threat of wildfire eases, the Wisconsin DNR has issued a burning ban and is urging residents to use extreme caution during what it calls unusually dangerous conditions. Joining us now with an update is Ben Garrett, a wildland urban specialist with the DNR's Division of Forestry. And Ben, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having.
Appreciate it. Put the situation into perspective for us in terms of what the situation is right now in northwestern Wisconsin and how potentially dangerous it is.
In northwestern Wisconsin, a lot of variable factors have come together, so to say. They've all lined up. The winds have been higher than usual, over that 15-mile-an-hour range. Dry relative humidities down below 25%, which isn't real common. We get a few days a year like that. And also we've had warmer temperatures and a lot less moisture than normal. So they've all lined up. It's created quite a potential for fire.
Yeah.
Usually comes this time of year. We usually see fires, but we're expecting larger ones.
Ben, Julie mentioned a red flag warning. What's a red flag warning compared with other warnings that may be put out by the state?
Okay. The red flag warning, DNR and NOAA, National Weather Service, work together real closely. We look at those things I just mentioned, the relative humidity, the temperature, the wind speeds, and when they all reach a certain level, we start to alert the public. It's really a tool for us to try to reduce the number of starts on fires. When they take effect, all outdoor burning is strongly discouraged. As 98% of the fires in Wisconsin are caused by people, you can see why we want to take those flames and keep them from getting into the wildlands.
So we're not currently within that red flag. Talk about the burning restrictions that are in place right now and what people can and cannot do as they head into the weekend.
Okay. As of Wednesday, we were under very high fire danger based off the national numbers and the Canadian numbers. What that means is we have canceled burning permits. In Wisconsin, you're required to get an annual burning permit in order to burn anything outside, with the exception of campfires and cooking fires. Once we cancel those permits, no more. We don't want to have any flames out there. But campfires, as long as they're used for cooking and warming only, and it's an actual campfire, which there's really a distinction. A lot of people try to throw all their yard waste in there to burn it, and it makes it go away. It's no longer a campfire. But once the red flag's in effect, or currently, we can still allow the campfire, but we strongly discourage it.
The well-known German Lake fire was flaming 2 years ago right now. How were conditions back then, Ben, compared with now? It's similar, or are the conditions worse this year?
Actually, the conditions are quite a bit worse this year. The last 2 years have been relatively quiet in Wisconsin. We've had a lot more moisture. So even during German Road fire, we had rain that morning, and a week before we had snow on the ground.
Oh.
So it changed rather rapidly, and if you kind of take a look at the graphic we've got up, we've had a lot of large fires that follow what's called Fire Landscape 15. It's my spot.
So this
to work.
is historic fires that people are seeing.
Yep, and these go all the way back to the 1930s. Probably the biggest fire on there ran from Comstock to Ashland or Iron River. Really large fire. As you can see, based off that map, it tends to follow the red, which is our sand plain. It's a lot of jack pine, a lot of other types of pines that carry large fires. So it really kind of fits in there. It doesn't mean we can't get fires other places, but that's really our hot spot.
How can people keep their property safe?
There's a lot of things they can do, and actually that's the biggest tool for a firefighter is what a homeowner can do well ahead of the fire. If you see the graphic up here, we recommend what's called defensible space. We look at the home ignition zone. So anything within 5 feet of the structure, we try to reduce any kind of flammable fuels. So whether it be firewood or pine needles, evergreen trees, anything that's fairly volatile. We work our way out to about a 30-foot mark where we can still have some of those things, but we want to thin it out so there's not a real buildup. And then we try to thin the property on out to about 100 feet, taking out dead and down material. 30 feet's really that go-to number. If you look at the German Road fire we were talking about earlier, most of the houses that survived had roughly 27 feet, so really close to that number. So.
Lots of houses tucked in the woods in northwestern Wisconsin.
Definitely.
So do you find that most people follow this kind of a general rule as they build their property, or?
Generally people want to do the right thing. They want their home to be safe, but in that what they come to northern Wisconsin, they see the forests and the trees, and they want to be part of that. What my job really is the education side. Let's do it, but let's do it safely. We don't have to make a parking lot around a house to make it safe. But we also need to follow some real good rules of thumb.
Ben, will we need a considerable amount of rain to knock down the fire danger?
What we'll need is a considerable amount of rain several times. Typically we'll get a 1 to 2 inch rainstorm, and in the sand country that we've been discussing, it'll dry back out in 2 to 3 days. So what we need is a good rain, and then another couple of days, and then another good rain, and that'll reduce the danger quite a bit.
One of the tools that you folks use is prescribed burning. Is any of that going on at this time of the year, or are you hands off too?
And actually this time of the year is the best time from a management standpoint to do the prescribed burning. Prescribed burns are used typically for us in the state to improve wildlife habitat. So what we'll do is we'll take out the old dead materials with the prescribed fire, which makes it a better environment for the birds and whatnot. We have not up in this area done much this year because of the exceptionally dry conditions, but that isn't to say we're not going to if we get the right conditions.
In Wisconsin, could a person be billed, Ben, for starting a wildfire and all the costs involved in fighting that blaze?
Yeah, definitely. If it is determined, and we do a lot of investigation on every fire, if it's determined that you put fire to the environment, whether it be burning your brush or burning some garbage, you can be responsible for all the suppression charges, which can get pretty pricey, as well as receive citations for setting fires.
Sure.
So.
What about citations in terms of just the regular violations of burning bans without a fire developing? Is there pretty intense enforcement and penalties for this?
There definitely is. Our rangers in Wisconsin spend most of their time dealing with what we call burning complaints. Somebody will call in that they've seen the brush fire or somebody burning a pile of brush. And it's really up to the officer's discretion. It's a really good tool for those offenders that have done it multiple times. Or if it's, we had one the other day where somebody walked by a red flag poster and admitted that and still set fire.
Okay.
So it's all situational. There is a statute that says if they're burning under the restrictions, they'll receive a citation. So
We have about 10 seconds, but if people see a fire, what's the best way to get that news to you?
Best thing to do is dial 911 immediately. 911 will catch all of the dispatch centers and they will call us.
Sure.
All right. Well, Ben Garrett, Wisconsin DNR, thank you for coming in, and thanks for keeping folks safe up here.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Good job.
Let's turn now to the week's top business news from Business North. Kestrel Aircraft has merged with Eclipse Aviation of Albuquerque, New Mexico to create a combined business called One Aviation Corp. It's not immediately clear how the merger will affect Kestrel's offices in Superior and Duluth. Core products of the new firm include the Eclipse 550 twin-engine light jet, which Eclipse developed and already is on the market, and the Kestrel K350 single-engine turboprop, which is under development. Kestrel founder Alan Klappmeyer, who also co-founded Cirrus Aircraft, is chief executive of the combined firm.
Both the copper market and Polymet are positioned well for future growth. That's what Polymet President and CEO John Cherry said Wednesday at the annual Society of Mining Engineers Minnesota conference in Duluth. Cherry said a company that mines copper, nickel, and other precious metals will diversify the state's mining industry at a time when the iron ore market is struggling. According to Cherry, the demand for precious metals is being fueled by rapid development in third world countries. Clean energy applications such as windmills, solar panels, and hybrid cars also use large amounts of copper.
The 465-foot ship known as the Comb and registered in Malta was the first ocean-going vessel to arrive in the Twin Ports this year. It sailed under the aerial lift bridge just after noon Monday, then headed to Superior to load grain. The traditional welcoming ceremony for the first salty of the shipping season was held on board the Comb on Wednesday. Now, despite ice that lingered in eastern Lake Superior, numerous ships were in the Twin Ports this week, and the shipping season is in full swing. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
Our time is nearly up, so call now if you have a comment. Dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message, or send an email to almanacnorth@wdse.org. You can also visit the WDSE website for news and information about the station, updates on our broadcast schedule, or to sign up as a member. And Denny, it seems like everyone in the city was outside today enjoying this nice weather.
This was the time to do it. Highs in the mid-40s this coming week, so this was the time.
All right, for Denny and the crew here at Almanac North, I'm Julie Zenner. Have a great weekend.